In A Dance with Dragons and Season 5 of Game of Thrones, a knight called Robert Strong appears in King's Landing. Qyburn brings him to Cersei to join the Kingsguard and to fight for her in her upcoming trial by combat, where Cersei stands accused of treason. Sir Strong has apparently taken a vow of silence, swearing not to speak until all his grace's enemies are dead and evil has been driven from the realm. He doesn't show his face or take off his armor. He apparently doesn't eat or drink or use the privy. And he's huge, 8 feet tall or maybe taller. Where did this man come from, asks Mace Tyrell. Why have we never heard his name before? Is he even really a knight? Who or what is this silent giant? To answer these questions, we need to turn to Qyburn. When we first meet Qyburn, he seems nice enough. He's described as fatherly and grandfatherly, with warm brown eyes. But he's actually an incredibly sketchy dude. Qyburn serves the Leech Lord Roose Bolton at the notoriously cursed castle of Harrenhal, and before that he rides with an infamous sellsword company, the Brave Companions, also called the Bloody Mummers. Qyburn himself has a reputation for black magic and necromancy, having been kicked out of the Citadel for opening the bodies of the living to better understand the nature of death. The show suggests he performed dangerous and unnatural experiments on living men. In any case, he's a skilled healer, so Qyburn treats Jaime's hand, or stump, and comes with him to King's Landing. There, he wins the trust of Cersei, who confides in him, tells him her dreams and her secrets, at a time when she feels alone and threatened. Cersei makes Qyburn Master of Whisperers after Varys disappears with Tyrion. According to Roose Bolton, Qyburn hopes to be made a maester again, and in the show, Kevin calls Qyburn a sycophant. Qyburn has cleverly gained the favour of Cersei and a seat on the small council, but it's not like he just wants power. Qyburn tells Jaime in the show that his weakness is curiosity. He's a sort of a medieval mad scientist, talking of proof and reason and performing bold experiments out of a genuine passion for unlocking the secrets of the body. In the show, he tells Jaime that the insight from his studies has saved many lives, but as Cersei says, Qyburn can do horrors as well as wonders. Qyburn shows an interest in the Mountain, Gregor Clegane, who has been wounded by Oberyn Martell's poisoned spear and is dying of the venom slowly and in exquisite agony. Cersei wants to put the mad dog down, but Qyburn convinces her to let him tend to Gregor instead. In the books, he's very vague about what he plans to do with the Mountain, just implies it's related to life and death and the black arts. In the show, Qyburn tells Cersei that he's saving Gregor in a process that will change him somewhat, but not weaken him. Cersei supports this work. She provides gold, and she also gives Qyburn people, mostly women who Cersei wants to get rid of. The handmaiden Sanel, some puppeteers, and Felice Stokeworth, Bronn's wife's sister. We don't know what Qyburn does with these women in his dungeon, but we do know Sanel is exhausted, the puppeteers are used up, and Felice is not entirely comfortable and no longer capable of feeding herself before she dies screaming. This all seems to be related to Gregor, who remains with Qyburn screaming in the darkness of the dungeon, or in the show, creepily moving beneath a sheet in Qyburn's lab. Before Cersei is arrested by the High Sparrow, Qyburn promises to produce a champion who will protect Cersei's son, kill her enemies, and keep her secrets, someone who no living man will be able to withstand. He also orders a suit of armor so heavy that the armorer says no man is strong enough to move and fight in it. After Cersei's arrest, Qyburn visits Cersei in her cell, and in the show he says, "The work continues." Shortly after, we meet Robert Strong. So in summary, a freakishly big knight is dying, a necromancer uses him in creepy experiments, then produces a freakishly big knight who doesn't seem completely normal or alive. It's pretty obvious that Sir Robert Strong is Sir Gregor Clegane, somehow reanimated or kept alive or Frankensteined together from the parts of Qyburn's victims, an 8-foot-tall, undead mountain. Gregor Clegane has probably dealt more death and destruction with his own hands than any other man in Westeros. Doran Martell says if ever a man deserved to die screaming, it was Gregor Clegane, and with the rise of Robert Strong, Gregor might just die twice. Some may call that justice, but maybe we should pity Gregor Clegane. We find out in Feast that Gregor habitually drinks milk of the poppy to dull the pain of blinding headaches. It may be that Gregor's extreme brutality ultimately comes from pain, physical and maybe emotional. Like, this man is so fucked up that he can only find respite from pain by inflicting it. So isn't there something cruel in prolonging his suffering by raising him from the dead? In the show, Qyburn is at Harrenhal when Gregor puts the place to sword, so maybe Qyburn resents Gregor and enjoys having him as his twisted plaything. It's ugly however you look at it. Someone needs to end this silent night. The question is who? Who will represent the faith by fighting Robert Strong in Cersei's trial? To some, the obvious choice is someone like Lancel Lannister, who would probably be obliterated by Ser Strong. But there's another theory, that the supposedly dead Gregor Clegane will fight another supposedly dead Clegane, Sandor, the Hound. This is called Clegane Bowl, and is traditionally explained with dubstep and flashing lights and cries of "get hype." So what it basically does is combine the idea that Robert Strong is Gregor Clegane with the Gravedigger theory, that Sandor Clegane is still alive. We won't get into Gravedigger here, but basically there's a lot of good evidence that the Hound survives the wounds that nearly kill him and becomes a monk on a secluded island. Clegane Bowl claims that the faith in King's Landing bring the Hound out of this retirement and set him to one last fight, to kill his brother, the man he's hated all his life, the man who's been brutally killing and raping across the realm for years. It may be that, like the White Walker's whites, the undead Gregor has a weakness to fire. The Hound has a fear of fire, ever since Gregor gave Sandor his burns. Maybe the Hound will overcome this fear and use fire to kill his abominable brother in an act of violent redemption. These are two of the greatest warriors in Westeros, returned from the dead to fight for the fate of Cersei Lannister before all King's Landing. Clegane Bowl would be pretty fucking sick, and a lot of people would love to see it happen. However, there's no strong or direct evidence that it will happen, and there are a lot of good reasons to believe it won't. For starters, it wouldn't really fit the character arc of Sandor, who has let go of violence and hatred. He's embraced a life of peace, as a monk, a crippled monk who no one even knows is still alive, apart from the elder brother who keeps his identity secret on a remote island. George R. R. Martin has crafted this beautiful conclusion to Sandor's story, and it just doesn't fit to have him kill again, even for a good cause. So Clegane Bowl doesn't seem likely in the books. But HBO does seem willing to sacrifice some character development if it means they can fit in a few more flashy fights, as with Jaime, and a recent casting announcement suggests that the next season will feature Septon Merribold, the guy who takes Brienne to Quiet Isle where she sees the Gravedigger, who is probably Sandor, which seems weird. Would the show spend screen time on Sandor unless they plan to use him for something? HBO is probably more aware of and receptive to the Game of Thrones fandom than George is, who says he doesn't read theories and writes his books on a computer that isn't even connected to the internet. So maybe, just maybe, even if Clegane Bowl doesn't happen in the books, it could happen in the show if HBO knows viewers want it. Perhaps someone needs to tell them. Regardless, the evidence shows that the mountain rides again, that Sir Robert Strong is a reanimated Gregor Clegane zombie, and whoever he fights, it'll be really cool to see how this story plays out in seasons and books to come. Thanks for watching. As ever, check out the Song of Ice and Fire subreddit and Westeros.org and all the other great communities where Game of Thrones theories originate and are discussed. You can check out the Gravedigger video if you'd like to see the evidence that Sandor Clegane still lives. You can also subscribe to and follow Alt-Shift-X for more explanations and analysis, both on Game of Thrones and some other stuff coming soon. Cheers.